everybody. It is Friday, June 24th, 2016. I have no idea how the month of June went by so fast, but we're finally doing the show because my cyborg co-partner has still been recharging himself. Nick, how are you doing today, and why does it take you so long to recharge your battery?
I wasn't recharging my battery. I wasn't feeling good. I was sick. I'm a human being, and I get sick. That's something that happens.
That's what all the robots say when they have downtime.
Why wouldn't they just say they were sleeping?
Robots don't sleep, Nick. You know this.
Uh, uh, but, uh, uh, anyways, so, how have you been?
Pretty good, other than losing a friend of mine that I've had for uh 16 years now.
This is why talking about politics is dangerous.
It is, but see, here's the thing. This friend is apparently mad at me because I'm politically opinionated. I mean, like everybody who's listened to the show, especially you, knows that I'm politically opinionated. So they're, I guess, tired of my political statements, and I said something about gun control. Because I've said this like half a dozen times now, and I don't know why it's so difficult to comprehend. I'm a gun owner, okay? I own guns. I use guns. I vote Republican. But I think it's time that we have a national conversation about gun control. And the reason being that a person who was investigated 3 times by the FBI killed 49 people in a nightclub after claiming allegiance to a terrorist organization. Now, here's the thing. The ACLU has had negative responses to the no-fly lists and stuff like that. I understand that. I completely understand that because I would really hate to not be able to do things because I was on a terrorist watch list because I happen to have a similar name, which is what happened to Ted Kennedy, and it took him 3 weeks to get off the list. There have been Secret Service agents who were unable to fly to where they needed to go to protect the president because their names happened to match one that was on the list. I understand the problems with it, okay? There's a lot of entirely innocent people who have been on there. So the question, of course, that's been raised is, well, how does the list keep us safe? Well, if Omar Mateen had been on the list and it had shown up on a background check, he wouldn't have been able to legally purchase his guns. But wait, you say, he had a helper, okay? And that was supposedly his now ex-wife. Well, she needed to be on the watch list too, okay? Now, another friend of mine asked me, how further would this be carried? How many people's lives are we going to essentially ruin because of someone's ties to terrorism? I would say at least immediate family and known associates. At least keep an eye on them, okay? We used to do this as a country a lot. In fact, the FBI under Herbert Hoover used to do this all the time. Uh, there were people whose houses were bugged, phones were tapped. They had people following people like Martin Luther King Jr. all the time. Okay?
The Great Red Scare.
Yeah, the Red Scare, because everyone was possibly tied to communism. Now, that was a problem. I don't agree with all that behavior, and I do think it is a genuine invasion of privacy, especially after the Patriot Act came about. But it's important to discuss it. Now, all of you are welcome to disagree with me on this. It's fine. I understand if you do. But my concern is, again, a person who was evidently radicalized. I'll get out in a moment. Now, whether he was genuine about it or not, claimed allegiance to ISIS and killed people. And he was legally allowed to purchase his firearms. There are a lot of people, myself included, who would be impacted by a ban on weapons because some people may have sought help for depression, they may have anxiety, they may have PTSD from being in the military. They could also be Gersh Kunzman, who apparently had PTSD from just firing an AR-15. You fucking pussy. Sorry. Jesus. Jesus. Anyway, help me. Help me here. Help me. What is wrong with our country today? Okay, for those of you who don't know who Gersh Kunzman is, he's a writer, and the day after the shooting in Orlando, he went to a gun shop and asked the owner if he could fire an AR-15, then wrote a piece. And I'll give him credit. What he wrote was actually worth reading, because it actually did have a point to it. But Mr. Kunzman said that he had a temporary case of PTSD, and it made him feel angry, and then he got called a pussy for it, because he deserves to be called a pussy for it, because he's a fucking pussy. And ladies out there, please understand, I'm not saying this in reference to your vagina. I understand the vagina is incredibly powerful. Okay, I know the pain it can withstand, or it's intended to withstand. Okay, so please don't jump on my ass about this. I'm using pussy because it comes from pusillanimous. Point being, Gersh Kunzman acted like a little girl. Now that you can jump on me for, that's fine, because that was sexist right there. But he acted like, I don't really know an accurate comparison here. And actually, I probably shouldn't even say little
A
girl.
coward?
Yeah,
You say coward?
yeah. I guess. See, honestly, I probably shouldn't even say little girl, because there are little girls who shoot AR-15s. Okay, there are
I've seen
children
some.
who shoot AR-15s. My 7-year-old nephew has shot an AR-15. Okay, it's fine. Didn't hurt anybody. Now, if it bruised your shoulder and left you weak in the knees, no, Gersh, hold the gun properly. Okay, learn some actual gun control. Anyway, I'm getting way off target here. Anyway, yeah, I made a statement about this because I think it's important to have a discussion about gun control. I'm sorry, this has been like the third time now that someone who should not have been able to get access to a firearm was legally allowed to get access to it because the FBI fucked up. Okay, 3 times is enough. It's time to have a conversation about it. We are having a sit-in in the U.S. House of Representatives, led by a person who marched with Martin Luther King over this issue, and it's led to some spectacular fallout. But my overall point here is that if we're ever going to have a conversation about it, ever at all, and hope to find some resolution to this issue, it needs to be now. Now really is the time, because the public opinion is on the side. Okay, is on the side of this conversation. Now, my thing with using the watch list is it's just like the $15 minimum wage. It is nothing more than a negotiation tactic. There's never going to be a gun ban for all guns in the United States. It's not going to happen. Too many people are fervent supporters of the Second Amendment. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, yes, I know exactly word for word what the Second Amendment says. But the problem is that the guns that they had when that was written are not the guns that we use now. Okay, things change, times change. It's time to get off our butts and talk about it. I'm sorry. Okay, so this friend,
No, also, I'd like to raise another point. The idea that we could resist the US military with AR-15s and handguns, to me, is fairly laughable, if not pretty hilarious. I am sure that many people are very fine marksmen and trained in at least some in guerrilla warfare, but you're not going to be able to take down jets with an AR-15 or a handgun, or you're not going to be able to take down a tank or a drone.
say that, but that's exactly what ISIS has been doing.
No, see, ISIS actually has weaponry from the US military that we left behind in Iraq. ISIS is actually much more well armed than people want to believe.
They are, but see, okay. Anyway, but before
Also, They're facing just airstrikes. Literally, just airstrikes. They're not facing the full force of the U.S. military. In fact, when the U.S. military was there, guess what was not there? ISIS was not there. Why? Because you can't freaking beat the U.S. military with handguns and AR-15s.
Yeah, essentially you're right, but before we get way off in the rabbit hole,
Oh, shit. Sure.
anyway, before we get way off down there, I'm going to read to you word for word what this friend said, okay? Supposedly this is coming from her soon-to-be husband, and when I get done reading this, I have a response for this person. You're not against guns. Great. Ever hear of due process? I thought an armchair Civil War general, such as yourself, would know this is one of the many reasons that the Civil War erupted. That's un-American. That's disgraceful. That's shameful. Okay, so Nick's aware of this response. One of the many is, and yes, I'm actually reading my response to this person, by the way, and then I'm going to get into my actual response because I had something that's much more polite than this because it went downhill from here. But this is just to show you like the divisiveness that happens over an issue that needs to be discussed. Okay, one of the many is an all-inclusive phrase for states' right. So when you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to read the response. I'm not going to read the exchange. I want to just go ahead and say this. Fuck you. Okay? You told me fuck you to me, so I'm going to say fuck you to you. You're probably never going to hear this, and that's fine, but fuck you. It's actually beneath me to engage this individual or anyone else, because for one, this person does not vote. This person has no political opinion. They don't know anything other than vote for Donald Trump because they like what he has to say. And yes, I've seen this person share memes like that. If that is your stance, if you know nothing about what's going on in Congress, in fact, you don't even know your mayor, your mayor's name, you don't know your representative in the Senate, you don't know your representative in the House, you don't know anything other than Obama is a fucking racist, he's a nigger, and he's a Muslim, and vote for Trump, he'll make America safe again, you don't deserve to have a voice in this discussion, okay? Just because you are free, white, Christian, and a woman does not make you my equal, okay? And especially over something that I've spent, I don't know, at least half of my life studying, which is the Civil War, okay? I was a reenactor, I was a living historian, I was a lecturer. In fact, I still get asked to do things about it. I have a copy of the newspaper from the day Lincoln died hanging about 3 feet away from me, as well as about 40 or so books about it. And I also have a headstone from an unknown Confederate soldier's grave. Okay, it was being replaced, and it was offered to me as a gift. Okay, I had family who fought in the Civil War, just as I had family who fought in World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Don't fuck with me on this. Don't come at me about me being unpatriotic, because I will tear your ass down verbally, and that's exactly what I did. But the problem here is that people like you and I, Nick, we're actually informed about this. We may not have every fact possible, but we actually make an effort to get the facts correct because the actual facts are what matters. Individuals like this, as I say, should have no say in everything that goes on, but yet they are allowed to have a say. They just don't exercise, and they're dumb as hell for it. So fuck you. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. This is no love lost on my end. It was a terrible friendship. You're obviously a terrible person. I could say a lot more personal things, but unless Nick, if you want to hear me say the personal things, just say yes. I'll be glad to say.
For the good of the show, I'm going to say no.
Thank you.
It's okay, John. It's okay.
But yeah, that's like the point that I'm at right now. You know, that's the point that America's at. There is a tipping point coming in our country, and it's terrifying. It's actually terrifying. Okay, I'm genuinely I'm genuinely uncertain of what our future holds because people like this are raising children. Okay, there are people out there who vote Republican. I'm sorry to say, there might be some who are Democrat. I don't know, but anyway, they're against gun control because it takes away someone's rights. Okay, It takes away someone's rights with the Second Amendment. That's fine. I get that. But we take away people's rights all the time. All the time. We have the largest prison population in the world. And felons do not have the majority of rights that the rest of us do. If someone molests a child, we damn sure take away their rights. If you kill somebody, you take away their rights. Okay? If you are an alcoholic and you cause problems, like you get in drug, whatever, you take away rights. There is legal precedents all the time in this country to take away someone's rights. Okay? And to me, someone who says, I support ISIS, death to America, I want to kill everybody, should not have the right to own a gun legally. I'm sorry. That's just not cool with me. It doesn't work with me. And if it does with you, you know where the unlike button is on our Facebook page, and you know how to unsubscribe from us, because I honestly, Eddie, I don't want anyone like that listening to the show. I really don't. If you generally think that terrorists need to be armed while in the borders of our country, while screaming that we need to build a wall to protect us, just stop listening to the show right now, because fuck you.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm angry.
Well, this whole incident is actually really, really interesting to me. I mean, well, I don't know. Do you want to talk about this now or later? Because it actually has a lot to do with Brexit, which, you know, is the big news of the day.
I think we need to have a happy little interlude. So, flip a coin. Warcraft. We'll talk about Warcraft for a second. Because America,
Wait,
you're letting me down, buddy. You're letting me down.
Did you actually flip a coin, or did you just pick Warcraft?
I
want to know.
You didn't hear the ding?
No, I didn't. I think we need video evidence that you actually flipped a coin.
No, we're going to talk about Warcraft for a second, because I heard some news today that really bothered me. America, you've let me down. Like, really. There's no other way to put it.
Wait,
Warcraft
how did it let you down even more?
Warcraft is the best performing video game movie ever. Ever. It is doing quite badly in the United States, which I guess is to be expected. This is the United States, and the majority of Warcraft players do not live here, so I understand that. But there was also a 2-week gap in between the international release and the one here. So the only possible solution is that maybe the movie was pirated. I don't know. It's either that, or people just didn't want to go see it, or they bothered to listen, like you did, Nick, about Dawn of Justice, to what the critics had to say, because the movie critics apparently know everything. No, the movie is beautifully done. Okay? It is intended to be good, and it is good. It's set up as a movie that a fan will love, and everyone I know who has seen it that plays World of Warcraft or any of the Warcraft games has loved it. Even Hearthstone fans will love the movie. Okay, it's really good. It's really, really good. I actually thought at some point in time, maybe like after it's on DVD or whatever, we should have like a little Easter egg thing, like go through and watch it a dozen times, then find Easter eggs, because there's so many. There's so many. There is like just 2 of them off the top of my you know what? 3 off the top of my head. There is a summoning stone. There is a Murloc, and Khadgar actually lands at the flight path. The flight path in Stormwind.
Well, I kind of okay. The Warcraft movie is very, 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 very good. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. However, there's a problem if you don't know the lore. And I think this is one of the really interesting things about movies and trying to tell things that we like in movies. Because if you're not necessarily a fan, if you're not necessarily up to date on the lore or have a good general sense of the lore, um, it's really easy to get lost in these movies. And I had a friend who's played Warcraft before. He wasn't exactly an extensive Warcraft player, but he has played the game before. And he told me that he was really lost during the movie. And there was just so much going on that he couldn't keep up with all of it. So I can understand why critics have a problem with it. And I can understand why general audiences might not be as inclined to like it as much as Warcraft players or people that love Warcraft. And it's one of those things where you have to reach a happy medium between making the movie that the fans deserve and being able to tell the story so that people who aren't fans necessarily can keep up with it and relate to it and understand what's going on. And it's something we're still apparently working towards.
Well, see, that makes me think of another possibility here. Where to begin? Transformers 4. Okay, that movie, generally hated by Americans, loved by the Chinese. Warcraft is performing better than almost anything else in the world ever has in China. Okay, the Chinese movie market, now that it's been opened up to Western movies, now that movies are actually being shot there, moviegoers are very, very excited in China, and that's why at least half of the money that Warcraft has made is from China. For those of you who don't know, it's 350 some odd million, I think, right now. Before it ends its theatrical run, it'll probably make 400 million. Like I said, that is the best video game movie of all time, right there. But America, most of our sales are after release. You know, like DVD, Blu-ray, being shown on HBO, Cinemax, you know, pay-per-view, stuff like that. Like, Americans tend to watch movies more that way. So it's possible that Warcraft will do even better in that kind of release market. But you know, that was why I initially said that maybe the 2 week difference in the international release in that one is part of what's going on, because, you know, it's already out. The spoilers are already out there. Reviews are already out. And most people are like, you know what? I'll just pass on it. And there's been a lot of movies that have been done that way. And honestly, unless it's something like, I think it was what was it? The Conjuring 2, whatever it was, that just came out the same day that Warcraft did, or maybe a Marvel movie, you don't tend to see huge crowds in the United States. Maybe Star Wars. I know actually Star Wars was pretty good, you know, but something like that, you know, unless it's something that's really popular in the public consciousness, you're just not going to get an audience for it. It just happens. So it might be literally that Americans just don't go to the movies that much anymore.
I think also Americans have always had we've always had kind of a love-hate relationship with sci-fi and fantasy movies. There's only really two genuinely successful ones that I can think of, which are Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Everything else has been okay sometimes, pretty good, but there hasn't been any really big hits necessarily. Narnia kind of just disappeared.
Well, the reason for Narnia, there's an actual reason they're not making the movies. It's because the kids got too old. Like that was literally, I mean, there was the full intention of making all the movies. But because of the CGI and everything involved in them, it takes longer to make the movies than it would, something where you don't use much CGI. So
Yeah.
it's to the point where
Well,
the kids were just simply too old and
uh,
they couldn't finish it.
but the main point is that if it's not contemporary fantasy or contemporary sci-fi or apocalypse sci-fi, or dystopian sci-fi, those seem to be the things that Americans love. Dystopian, the future is so bleak, or if you try to, apparently we hate worlds where there are good people and good things can happen. I don't know.
It's a letdown, though. I mean, really, I thought the movie would do a lot better here. The theater was when I went to see it. I still haven't been back to see it a second time. I need to go before it's out. Just because I want to. My nephew that went with me when I went to see it, he's 15 years old. He's actually been back to see it on his own. He wanted to go back to see it on his own because he liked it a lot. He was actually impressed about it. But the theater, it was actually one of the smaller ones at our cinema. There's 6 screens, and this was one of the original ones that was there. So it's a little bit smaller than the rest of them, But it was still very full. I mean, there was a lot of people there. But that was the same night The Conjuring 2 came out, because apparently a sequel is somehow better than a movie. But anyway, going back to what you said about your
like I said, Americans love horror. They love dystopian futures. They love apocalypses. They love random action movies more
but then
than.
see, here's the thing. That can all be found in World of Warcraft. It's high fantasy. There are guns.
No,
There are
the thing
alien
is, it's
invasions.
high
There's
fantasy,
magic.
though.
There's demons. Everything that anyone has ever needed is in the Warcraft movie. But what I was going to say is your friend that felt lost in it. That I understand. Okay, the movie is very, very rushed in the way it presents the story. Okay, I'm not going to deny that at all. It's very, very rushed.
I've heard a lot of people suggest that it would have been better to do more of a Game of Thrones kind of route, and make it a TV series. Just because there's so much story to tell.
Well, okay. The thing is that Duncan Jones specifically made the movie shorter. Okay, like there was a lot more that should have been in there, but he made the decision, just for time's sake, because it's like 2.5 hours long as it is. He made the decision to go ahead and cut a lot of stuff out. But what was cut, like for example, would have explained, a few things here and there. But it didn't really ruin the overall story of the movie to make the cuts that he made. Whereas the cuts that were made in Dawn of Justice fucking tanked the movie. And I'll admit that. And I loved Dawn of Justice. I really did. It's the best Batman movie I've ever seen. I loved it. Okay? But there were certain things that were cut from that would have made the plot more seamless than what it was. But with this, you still get the story. It's just the pacing of it is a little bit wrong. And that's because Duncan Jones, like I said, tried to put as much into it as he possibly could without it being this gigantic, 3 or 4 hour movie. And I understand that. I really do. But what the goal here is to make at least a trilogy, hopefully a trilogy. Okay, but it has made enough movie to greenlight a sequel. It's almost at this point guaranteed. Like, nobody said anything about it. If this is the only one we get, I'm fine with that. I am fine. if this is the only one that we get. Okay,
I,
I'll live with it.
I'm really hoping we get more, and it's just one of those really interesting things where, um, when you try to transform something from one medium to another, it can be so incredibly difficult. Um, a lot of people, of course, when they transfer books to movies, say the books are almost always better because there's more details, the plot's explained better, and it's really hard to find a good movie to book transfer. And when we're trying to transfer video games, especially ones with as much lore as World of Warcraft, and things like that, it's going to be really difficult. And I mean, we're going to clearly the studios are going to keep trying to get this right. And I'm hoping that they take some lessons from this about pacing, about trying to get the storyline across better or more easily. I'm not sure exactly how you do that necessarily. I mean, it's a difficult task. Maybe try to include more people that aren't fans and people that are fans to try to, when they're reviewing the movie or doing test screens or whatever, to try to find that happy medium. It's a difficult task.
It is, but like I said, the movie's amazing. I mean, my nephew has no experience with Warcraft universe. Like he didn't know anything about it other than having watched me play World of Warcraft a couple times, you know. And he's gone back to see it again because it hooked him, and
Mm.
that's what matters. Okay, like the success of the movie is in the fact that people who were not fans were brought in and they wanted to go see it again. Now, whether it was to see it again because they liked seeing the Murloc in the beginning, I don't know. It could have just been he wanted to see it again to try and get more of the story, you know, because sometimes if you watch a movie or a TV show, whatever, more than once, you get more of the story than you did the first time. Like, whatever happened, he went back to see it again. And that is the success of the movie. There are a lot of people who have been back to see it more than once. And that's great. That's fantastic. I would rather that happen than just about anything else because, like I said, that shows the movie is a success. It doesn't matter how much money it makes. Now, I know everyone else says it's the money, it's the money, it's the money. No, it's the people who go see it and can see it consistently. For example, one of my all-time favorite movies is generally disliked by everyone who's seen it. The movie Enemy Mine. I love the movie. Okay? I love it. It's good enough that I will go back and watch it again and again and will even get people to watch it with me. But if you go to like a movie, like, you know, like a place where you can buy movies on DVD or whatever, and if you see it, it's generally not purchased because everyone reads it. Like, I don't care, or they know something about it and they just don't care. It seems, you know, not worth the effort. But the reality is, it's a really good movie. It's a really, really good movie, and I think everyone should go see uh, Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. You know, playing a human and alien. It's a good movie. It really is. Damn it. And I don't know why no one really likes it. But that was
I
but that's the magic of the movie for me. It was good enough that I watched it and wanted to see it again.
I like a lot of bad movies. I do. I like a lot of movies that other people think are bad. In fact, one of my very favorite movies is something that almost all nerds hate, and I don't care. I love the movie Dungeons and Dragons. It was a terrible, terrible movie. I'm willing to admit that, but there was just something so just ridiculously fun about it. Like, everyone knew that this was a bad movie, and they were just gonna go in and do their best to have fun with it. I mean, you cannot watch Jeremy Irons in that movie and tell me that he is not having the time of his life. You can't.
And that's what matters, you know. One of my it's a really guilty pleasure movie, and since we're talking about guilty pleasures, I have something else I want to talk about too. But my guilty pleasure movie is actually Tommy Wiseau's The Room. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. I love the movie. It is so bad. It's like a um. I almost said visual car wreck, but but you know, car wrecks tend to be visual if you see them. Um, I really don't know how to describe it. Like, I mean, it's so bad. It is genuinely a terrible movie. Okay, now have you ever seen The Room? Especially on Adult Swim, because they aired it as their April Fool's Day joke for about 2 or 3 years. They would just suddenly interrupt their programming and show it, you know, like all night long. It's really bad. Like, it has plot devices that are dropped. For example, you know, the mother of Lisa. I mean, Lisa's mom has cancer, and then in the same scene, it's just dismissed. She's like, you know, she walks in having a conversation about something, and then she's like, "Well, I got my results back. It's cancer," and then they just switch topics entirely. Never brought up again. You never even see the mom again. Okay, there are so many characters introduced in this that are just there for one scene. Okay, um, there's a woman in a flower shop that walks in, and you know, Tommy's character Johnny has got glasses on, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't even recognize you when you walked in." And then when he walks out, he goes, "You're my favorite customer." Like it's stupid shit like that. Okay, um, terrible dialogue. The cinematography is appalling. The set design is trashy. It's like there is genuine green screen shit in this, and you know it's green screen by seeing it. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. Okay? I cannot stress enough how bad The Room actually is. But yet, I will watch it. I will watch it on repeat. I will bring friends to watch it with me. I will suggest to them that they watch it on their own, because there is something so enrapturing about the film, I just can't help myself. I really can't. It and I it's weird and it's creepy, you know, to watch something and to like it that much, but you don't really enjoy it, you know. But that kind of goes, like I said, to my other guilty pleasure thing. And I just, oh shit, Nick. Okay, where to begin? Okay, you know that I really hate reality TV, right?
Yeah, as a smart person should.
I hate reality. Okay, now there are some shows that are reality TV shows that I will watch. I really will. Like American Ninja Warrior. You know, I've gotten to where I've been watching that every week. It's really good, by the way. It really is.
Yeah,
But and and this past season of Survivor, I watched quite a bit of it because I happen to like Survivor. Uh, don't judge me. But anyway, I have found a reality TV show that it's not on TV. It's actually done online. It's entirely online, and it confuses the ever loving shit out of me why I even watch it. And the show is called The Sex Factor, and it is produced by the adult website xhamster.com. The premise of the show is kind of like...
Do I want to know?
Oh, yes, you want to know. You want to know because it's up to episode 6, and I have watched all 6 episodes. I don't know how many more are planned, but I'm gonna... Like this point, I have, like, it's so bad, I want to not watch it, but I have to finish it, okay? Anyway, the premise of the show is there are, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, I don't know, 25 people, something like that. Anyway, 2 teams, you know, one's all men, the other one's all women, and it's hosted by, like, 5 or 6 different actual porn stars, and the contestants live in a house, and they have to do things that lead to them getting a career in porn. Okay? The first episode was actually really, really good. Like, it was really good. It was worth watching just for this first episode because, you know, like, for example, they're at a house party type thing, you know, and there is a porn scene being filmed there, and they all get to be, like, in the background, like, they're sitting in the background having their little party thing, and the porn scene's being filmed in the hot tub. That's fine, okay? The first night they're all meeting one another. You know, a couple of them actually pair off and go have sex, you know. There's just one girl there who is apparently really insanely good at blowjobs, and she partners off with the guy, and he's like, that was amazing. It's amazing, you know. Like, they have them do these little, you know, like, stupid little tasks and everything, you know, to prove that they're capable of being in a porn. And their challenge was an actual sex scene type thing. Like, it was oral sex, and the challenge was here that if the man did not orgasm, the guy team would get a point, and if the girl could make the guy come, then the girls would get a point. Okay, like, that was the premise. Okay, and lo and behold, one of the female contestants that did this just happens to be the one that had paired off and blew the guy earlier that night. Okay, so, like, right as the timer gets to the like, she had 5 seconds left, he just boom came all over. It was interesting to watch, you know. But then they had the vote off competition, and that's where shit got weird. Okay, the first guy kicked off of the show was kicked off because he was walking around the house naked and was masturbating, and he wouldn't stop. He would not stop jacking off in the house. And when he was asked, why are you doing this? It's making everyone else uncomfortable. He says, we're here to do porn. We have to get used to seeing people naked and getting used to seeing hard dicks. And I'm like, okay, I'm with you on that. And then he just kept talking. He just had to say something else. And his response, and the rest of what he said was, besides, how many times in your life do you get to be in a house full of beautiful women who want to have sex for a living, and you just can't take care of yourself? And I'm like, okay, now you've lost me. Now you've gotten into the, you know, like, the creepy area here, because the youngest person in this show is like 19, 20, something like that, you know, so she's very young, very, very young. So they kicked him off, and the dude starts crying on the way out, and then the only male porn star judge of the show walks outside, and the cameras followed him for this, and he did, like, the don't follow me, I'll be right back, that thing. So he goes outside and he's talking to him, and I love this man. I love this man for what he did. He slapped the guy, like, just hauls off and slaps him, and he's like, man up, you haven't lost like, sure, we kicked you out, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep you on for the next episode. Just stop crying. Don't be a jackass about it. The next show was stupid. They talked about having a hustler shoot. They went to the hustler club. All the men had to strip, and the girls got to do a photo. It's gotten progressively stupid from there, but like the first episode is good enough to actually get you to watch it. But they had a couple who apparently had dated in real life for a while, and surprised they both happened to be contestants on the show. And he was talking about her, saying that she was the worst sexual partner he had ever had. She didn't ever moan. She didn't ever say anything. She's kind of laid there, like lifeless, like England's about to here in about 2 years. And good segue. Good segue. Go ahead. Anyway, but yeah, he's like, you're just the worst fuck I've ever had. And he was talking to someone else, and because this is kind of apparently a small house in California, which is they're in a mansion, and I don't know how small it is, but anyway, she found out, and they had to work together to do it. Like they had to do an actual scene with no directions. In other words, they have to have sex on camera with no director saying, "Stop, I want you to do this," and like the judges are in another room watching the whole thing, and they're having a conversation, whatever. So they're having sex, and she starts to fuck with him. She's like, "Why are you talking shit about me?" He's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes to kiss her. "I heard you were talking shit about me. You said I'm the worst fuck ever. So I'm gonna make sure that this is the worst sex you've ever had." And then she and like she just kind of turns like it's like she was planking, but on her back. She just kind of lays there and just would start fighting him and everything, And it went on and on and on, and it was actually uncomfortable for me to watch this. So but the guy gets up and he's actually starting to tear up because she's genuinely inside his head at this point in time. And one of the judges walks and they're like, "What the fuck is going on?" And they try and explain it, and he's like, "Look, you two just have to work together. You don't have to like one another, but when you're here, just do your scene." And then the other judge walks in, and it's actually Lexi Bell, the girl who was a college student who did porn to put her way through college and made a career out of it. Good for her. She walks in, she's like, "Look, just hate fuck, get it over with, and let's go." And then one of the other judges walks in, she's like, "Look, if you don't stop this shit, I'm going to kick you both off the show." And the rest of them are just like, "Whoa, you can't say that." Yes, you can. Anyway, the next episode, you would think these two would have gone home that night. They didn't. The next episode, they actually kicked one of my least favorite performers on there. He calls himself the Colonel. Red-headed, splotchy skin. He has no chin and a very small mouth. He's ugly. I'll be honest, he's ugly. Every woman on the show, every man on the show thinks he's ugly, and he is. But apparently he can quote unquote perform, and he does kind of a decent job when they actually use him. But his partner for their scene was not feeling it, and she said no, and he stopped. To his credit, this man stopped right then and right there and got off of her. So good for him for that. But they kicked him off of the show for that, for having stopped, apparently, even though he's not done anything else. I don't understand how they pick people on the show. Like it's very uninformed, like the voters in the United Kingdom. Segue number 2.
This has to be the most awkward section ever that we have ever done.
No. Discussing boring reality TV series about sex is kind of like talking about the Brexit, except for the fact that the Brexit actually has like some kind of result at some point in time.
You're forcing this transition so hard.
I am genuinely forcing the transition. I mean, like it's. I mean, look. Okay, here's the thing. Make all the jokes you want to, but England is fucked. So talking about a show where people are having sex to get a career where they're going to have sex. They're being fucked for money. England's about to be fucked. So, we're all getting fucked, and we may as well talk about a sex TV show. Yeah, England,
Oh,
you fucked us
yes.
over last night when you voted to leave the EU. Nick, I know you have thoughts about this, so I'll let you get them out because if like if you don't, I'll keep relating this to the sex factor.
I yeah, I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if anyone can handle that. But okay. So yeah. So England has decided it wants to leave the European Union. And it wants control over its borders and control over its immigration and control over its finances. And it doesn't want to pay the European Union money anymore. That all sounds like a great thing, right? Right?
Yeah, I guess maybe.
You know, except for the fact that, well, let's see. First of all, by electing to leave the European Union, they will for 2 years still be part of the European Union without any voice in the governance of it. The European Union will now punish the UK. The England has to rewrite all of its treaties with Europe and pretty much every country in the world now, which is not a good thing for them because they have very little leverage. Also, because England has become a service-oriented economy, it does not have the manufacturing capabilities necessary to be on its own, more or less. The days of England's manufacturing industry being its strength are long, long gone. Just like America's days of that are long, long gone. We now rely heavily on international trade and international business for our commerce. Now, one of the more interesting aspects of this is that this, in general, is a response to income inequality, which is primarily seen as a liberal point of view. But honestly, if we are to really analyze why many Republicans are angry, why many Republicans in America want to vote for Donald Trump, why people want to leave the European Union, it's because primarily of income inequality. And the top 1% are getting richer, as we like to say, and the bottom 99% are not seeing any of the wealth being spread around. And it's really interesting because obviously this is absolutely horrible in the short term. It is a disaster. It is a dumpster fire that has been rolled into a paper mill that is next to a fireworks factory that is next to a gasoline plant. Is that an accurate way to put it?
You could have just said it's the sex factor, and that would have been okay.
No, no, I like my way better. Anyways, um, and it's going to hurt these workers. It's going to hurt these people that are looking to fix the income inequality and earn their share more. It's going to hurt them more in the short term than it will help them. Um, it's basically like shooting yourself in the foot to get out of a bear trap. It actually doesn't solve anything. It kind of hurts you more. Um, but perhaps the most interesting aspect of this is people are so upset about income inequality and so divided on how to fix income inequality that we are now seeing people just simply say, burn it all down. That's literally what is happening. This is. It wasn't necessarily a referendum against the European Union, in my opinion. It's a referendum against the wealthy. It's a referendum against unfair wages, unfair practices. There's a lot of resentment and anger going around. Back in college when I was taking my business philosophy course, one of the ways that we described a country's wealth is, well, we make a pie, right?
Yeah.
And for socialism, obviously, the idea is everyone gets the same piece of the pie. Fairly simple concept, right? For capitalism, well, you get a piece of the pie depending on how much work you put in, ideally. And the way that you argue that this is better than socialism is because the capitalism pie is actually bigger than the socialism pie. So even if you're only getting a small slice of the capitalism pie, it's still bigger than a regular slice of the socialism pie. And this is true to a large extent. However, what's been happening over the past, I'd say 2, 3, maybe even 4 decades, is that the slices of pie that people are getting from the capitalist pie, to just put it like that, it's becoming thinner and thinner and thinner, and the more that this problem progresses, the harder it's going to be to fix it until a serious economic collapse could happen eventually if steps aren't taken in the near future to fix things like this.
So just like the sex factor.
This has nothing to do with Sex Factory.
But it does. You see, okay, look. Here's the thing. This is reality TV at its worst, and the Brexit is reality at its worst. So the comparison is very accurate because people are fucked either way. That was kind of why it was a segue. Okay, but look, okay. It's actually just occurred to me that some people might not know what the Brexit is, and those of you who don't understand what it is probably live in England because Google searches for what is the European Union and what happens if we leave the European Union actually spiked by 250% after the polls closed. After it was over, the British people decided to finally look up what was going to happen. So what's going to happen is, over the course of about the next 2 years, Great Britain will slowly pull away from the European Union, a group they have been a member of for 40 years now. Okay, the EU, Nick, as Nick just said, economic powerhouse in Europe. Okay, England cannot stand on its own, and I know some of you are saying, but what about all of the fantastic products England has? Name one. Name a single one, and don't say Doctor Who. Fuck you. Don't say Doctor Who, because that's actually all that they have. That and maybe
Surprisingly, England's entertainment industry has become perhaps their most successful products lately.
it is. Doctor Who has led the way, and
well, hold on. Wait. There's something I want to explain about England. England is a very, very rich country because it was the birthplace of capitalism. The banks are in England. The money is in England. But in order for the English to continue making money, they have to work through international trade. They are, in fact, one of the most reliant countries on international trade. And it is among the most unthinkable things to ever happen. Um, I was spending all morning watching Bloomberg News, and you could just feel the sense of panic on these the anchormen and the financial people, and because they there is so much uncertainty, and there is nothing worse in a financial market than uncertainty. It is literally the worst thing possible. And this will be 2 years worth of uncertainty until those negotiations are worked out. And those negotiations could go very, very, very badly for England. England will suffer for this. It will suffer badly.
And not just England, but Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, possibly
Well,
Gibraltar,
that's
and
why they're
and
possibly
everywhere
leaving.
else where England has any remote claim to. They will suffer, and we will be suffering along with them. Think
Well,
back.
also, wait. Scotland and Ireland and Wales might leave the United Kingdom
No,
and
no, no, no,
vote
no, no,
for
no, 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 no,
independence.
no, no, no. Wales and England. There was basically no one really in those countries who voted to stay in the EU. None. Northern Ireland, all but a single county voted to stay. In Scotland, no precinct reported anyone voting to leave. Okay, it was all England and Wales who said they wanted to leave. That was it. Okay, but it's good that you brought that up. We could possibly have Irish reunification because of this. It is a distinct possibility. Sinn Féin has already been saying it needs to happen because Ireland itself is staying in the EU. So if Northern Ireland votes to leave Great Britain, they can give up their nationhood and join back in part of Ireland. So there you have the end of English occupation of Ireland, and there you also and along with that you also go, holy shit, Coldstream Guards, and I forget several other units that are made up of Irish troops that have been part of the British military since at least the Revolution and the American Revolution. Long-standing units that'll go away. But Ireland will be a single country again. Okay, Scotland could leave. Now, of course, last year we had the vote with Scotland. I supported Scotland leaving. I'll be honest, I did. Because Scottish independence is a very important thing. So is Irish. My family, the majority of it is Irish and English. Okay, but I support Irish unification. I support Scotland leaving. Now, if they vote to leave, the EU has said this time, sure, we'll go ahead and let you stay in the EU as independent nations, and we'll continue to help you. If Scotland had left on its own, then the EU would not back them. Like that was the big thing. That was actually what put it down. Okay, but the reality is, this has fucked up the world. Okay, this decision has caused a lot of panic. In fact, a friend of mine from Canada even said that living in Canada is like watching your mom and your older, semi-unsuccessful brother have a fight, and you just can't figure out what's going on. Okay, and of course, that's talking about England and the United States. It's
Except for once, America is actually right.
Well, it depends on who you ask. Um,
No. This the decision to leave the European Union is a horrible decision on a variety of levels. Now, there may be some good things that can come of this, such as the wake up call about the discrepancy in income inequality that's going on, that needs to be addressed finally, hopefully. Um, there certainly are problems within the European Union that need to be addressed. It needs to, I mean, there are obviously problems. The European Union is by no means a perfect entity or the greatest example of international or cooperation, but it is one of the most successful ones, and it is one of the most powerful ones, and it is a wrong step to take to go backwards like this. This is not a matter of opinion. This is a matter of science. This is like saying, if you drop an atomic bomb, something will happen. You're going to have an explosion. You're going to have radiation. Things like that. Britain just dropped an atomic bomb on the financial markets, and nothing good is going to happen of this. I'm sorry, people. Well, the overall end reaction is going to be very, very bad.
okay,
It's
look,
plain and simple.
that's actually a really good analogy. But what makes it so good is that if you back up, say, just before World War II, before we actually dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, no one was really sure what would happen. Like, no one had any idea. They understood that it would be destructive and that bad things could happen, but like there was almost no indication of how many people would suffer radiation burns, how many would die instantaneously, how it would leave the most astounding thing to me is the actual imprint of a shadow of a human being on a wall or a street or stuff like that. Like no one really had an idea that that would happen. So yeah, your analogy is spot on. But except uh, now that we're
Well,
making that in a post uh, World War
well,
II world.
but here's another interesting thing. This, while the dropping of the atomic bomb is a good analogy, Um, it's more like a continuous dropping of bombs because for the next 2 years, there is going to be uncertainty after uncertainty, and any single little misstep can cause another hit, can cause another crash to the markets. And I know most people don't think the markets are that important or relevant to them, but they are. They're important and relevant on a variety of levels and manners. Buying houses, getting credit, what your interest rates are, your jobs, if they'll stay in a country or leave a country, um, their cash flow, your raises, your savings, income, retirement savings, all kinds of things can be drastically affected by this. It's going to it's more like a series of atomic bombs. They're just going to go off over and over and over again. And if you're listening to the news, if you're listening to the world leaders, everyone is pleading for patience and to not panic, because that is the thing that they fear the most. Because if people panic, and they have good reason to panic, Don't get this wrong. People have good reason to panic right now. Um, and I'm saying this from um, uh, uh, I know a lot of people think we tend to be rather liberal on some issues and things. I'm saying this from a business perspective, from someone that has studied business and financing. Um, I basically have a minor in finance. This is a incredible disaster that will continue for the next 2 years.
We're doomed.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh, at the very best that we can hope for is that everyone more or less comes to their senses and tries to work together to make the best out of a shit sandwich.
Well, shit sandwiches can be pretty tasty. I mean, it's not like the United States hadn't been eating one for most of my lifetime now.
I mean, maybe if we add some cheese and bacon, it's,
Yeah,
we might be able to get something out of it. I don't know. But
cheese and bacon
basically,
makes everything better.
it really does. But this is basically a shit sandwich. England has given the world a shit sandwich in the most uh, non English way ever. Because this is actually very unlike England, which is weird. But yeah.
Well, okay, look, okay. Here's the positive point of this, because believe it or not, there is a positive point that can be made about this. Democracy works.
Yeah. When an entire country decides it doesn't want to listen to experts, they can.
Sadly, that's really the only positive thing here. But I mean, like if if our options are democracy working or democracy being a failure, I'm surprisingly in favor of democracy working because I mean
Yeah,
that's really the only
that's
option.
the point. It
That's
really
really the only
is.
option.
I mean, I would much rather that democracy work than democracy not work. But democracy gets helped a lot when people actually know what they're voting for.
Well, see, that's actually the other positive thing about this because the voter turnout for this was something like 70 to 73% in the United States. We are barely ever over 40% voter turnout for any reason.
Actually, that's
So,
very low for England.
but still, that's 72% voter turnout. That's actually impressive.
No, see, actually, England's more usually around, I believe, the 90 percentile or 80, high 89, unless I'm thinking of another country. But European countries actually have very high voter turnouts. America is actually the oddity with our low voter turnouts, which is partly by design. But yeah.
But still, democracy worked and good voter turnout. So, yeah, that's kind of awesome, I guess. I mean, like I said, at least it's something positive about it.
Sure. Sure.
So, how about that TV show that was on TV Thursday night 10 years ago? Because that's decidedly more. No, 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 no. I'm not even gonna make that joke really because this really isn't a joking matter. You know, like having started off the show bitching about someone who's mad at me because I'm opinionated. I kind of wonder what this person and everyone else like them because God knows there are a lot of people like that in the United States. I kind of wonder what their response is. It's probably, I don't care. Or, like you said, why does it matter? And that's,
Actually, no. You know what their response is? Their response is, we should break away from the United States too. Have you seen the Texas independence movement?
I live in Texas, so it's kind of a routine discussion we have here, like every 5 days, I guess. And I'll be honest
Well,
with you,
apparently they're inspired by the British exit.
we have Republican government in Texas. It's kind of like, I mean, for example, it's like Donald Trump having gone to Scotland to open his new golf course um, in Scotland, where they don't have any golf courses at all. It's not a thing that they do in Scotland for golf, and apparently it's play golf in Scotland. Uh, you know what else he should open there? He should open a whiskey distillery because they don't have those in Scotland. Like they don't have golf and alcohol in Scotland. Anyway, what he should do while he's there is probably drink himself into a stupor because he tweeted. It was actually him on Twitter. He said just something to the effect of, just landed in Scotland. They're going nuts over here. They took their country back. You colossal fucktard. They didn't take their country back. Scotland wanted to stay in the European Union.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of shit sandwiches, the saying goes, shit rolls downhill. Okay, so people like my former friend who support Donald Trump, the shit is rolling downhill on this one. Okay, so the top of the shit pile, uh, you know, I actually would call this bullshit mountain, but not only do I want to not want to rip off of Jon Stewart, I also don't want to steal his phrase because bullshit mountain is actually a happy place compared to shit mountain. Okay, so shit mountain at the top is Donald Trump, and he says something stupid, and what he says just goes on downhill to where you have people who don't vote, but support him and don't like the current president because, again, he's a nigger and a Muslim. So they're just politically opinionated, and they're like, well, this is the greatest thing possible. We need to do this too.
It's it's just it's a very sad state of affairs for everyone. It's a very sad state.
I think what we should do is have a purge, and anyone who supports Donald Trump should be shot in the face.
I feel like that's a little too violent and undemocratic. So I'm going to say no.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gersh. Did it give you PTSD for me to say that?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It feels like I shot an AR-15.
Jesus Almighty, that's. I mean, okay. Here's the thing. Going back to that for 5 seconds because we've been going on for a while. He did make some good points. He really did make some good points. Okay. Guns are loud. They can be scary, and yes, a gun can kill someone. That's its intention. That's what they were created for. So he makes these reasonable points, and everyone's like, "Ah, you're against guns! Ah, this is what's wrong with America." No, what's wrong with America is that we think that leaving a more powerful government that unifies us all, for the common good is a good idea. And I know that that's kind of how we got started as a country, but it's time to probably, put away those stupid ideas and go back to something that actually works, like trying to not take a take as giant bite of the shit sandwich as we are going to have to.
Sadly, I have a feeling that we're going to have to eat a lot of shit over the next decade or two before people kind of figure out how how to not eat a shit sandwich. That there are other kinds of sandwiches in the world, like, I don't know, a ham and cheese sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There are other sandwiches in the world, people. I promise.
My question is, does the shit one have peanuts?
Um, Maybe if you add them in.
No, it needs to have them there to begin with, because that's probably the only option there.
I mean, it maybe if you feed the cow the right peanuts.
What about corn? Will there be corn in my shit sandwich?
You can have whatever you want in your shit sandwich.
Okay.
As long as there's shit in there.
Okay. That'll work. I think I'll have a Reuben with shit. That'll
Okay.
work. That'll work. Yeah. Because, democracy. We all get our what anyway. Anyway, I think that's probably going to be it for today.
Yeah, I think this show was just as much of a disaster as the Brexit. Uh, uh, yeah, yeah,
No,
that's
no,
my
no, no,
only way
no,
to
no. This
describe
show
it.
will never be a disaster. This show will never be a disaster.
Oh no, the reason that the show exists is because it is a disaster every day. That's what we aim to do.
Actually, just Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but, whatever.
Well, yeah.
And then we fail at it because you're sick.
Hey, you were
Hey,
sick
hey,
earlier
hey, hey.
too. You were sick earlier too.
I stay sick. That's the difference. I stay sick all the time. But anyway, yeah, I
Well,
think that's
we should probably get a better healthcare system so that doesn't happen.
yeah. Well, that's not going to happen either. But uh, I think it's probably a good stopping point for today. So thank you for listening or watching, and please remember to like. Please remember to like the channel on YouTube. By the way, YouTube has changed its terms of service up. Uh, so a lot of channels might be going away. Ours won't. Haha, we're not going away. But so please remember to like us on YouTube. Especially like us on Facebook. Even if you don't like us on YouTube, because we're started putting all of our episodes on Facebook now, so you can watch them there. Still haven't made the big announcement about the other possible option for where our show can be found. But please like us on YouTube and Facebook. Share the video. Let us know what you think about this. Yeah, I had to stop and think for a second there. The last thing I want to talk about, really quick, is that I haven't ever hidden that I play World of Warcraft, and Nick, you haven't either. But our guild has a new member as of last night. Her name is Miss Emily, and Miss Emily was born yesterday, and I'm very proud of our guild member for having their first child. They actually adopted a little boy several years ago, and they didn't think they could ever have kids, and this one was a complete surprise. Not an accident, because they were actually trying, but the thought was that neither of them could ever really have kids. So neither daddy or mommy could ever have their own kids. And surprise, they have a miracle baby. So we have a new guild member last night, and we have a new Radio Tokyo fan as well. So congratulations to them.
See, see, now you got rid of all the sadness and all the despair that we built up over the show. And now I'm just thinking about how awesome it is to have a new baby in the world.
It is, and also another good news. One of the friends of the show, Shayra, who's also on here on YouTube as well. She and her husband are actually going. They're moving across country, and Shayra and Daniel, which is the husband, and their daughter Kylie, actually were coming through the town that I live in because they're taking interstate to travel. Didn't get a chance to stop and say hi because they wanted to make good time to where they intended to go to that night. But Sarah posted a video earlier, made me cry. Her daughter has a best friend who lives here in Texas, and she hadn't gotten to see her friend in a very, 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 very long time. And it's a very sweet video of just her knocking on the door of the friend, answered it because she got there before her mom did. And it's just like this 30-second long hug and silence and then tears, and it was beautiful. So like, so like no matter what's going on in the world, there's always some happy stuff out there.
Yes, remember people, that is why we keep trying to make the world not a crappy place. Moments like that.
That's also why the Democrats were singing "We Shall Overcome" in the House this week.
Sure.
Because we shall overcome. Anyway, like I said, that's it for today. Please remember to like the video, comment on it, share it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook. Tell Robot Nick the topic for next week, and I guess in a comment below this, and we will talk to all of you Monday.
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. Don't be scared. Eventually, things will get better. Eventually.
Oh, hey, like one more tiny thing really quickly, and then we're going to stop. We had a special request for a clip of one of our older shows. It's from episode 6. You Are So Freaking Nicholas. It's probably one of the best rants I've ever done, so please go listen to our Facebook page. And there will be more clips, more highlights from older episodes coming up soon, because we've been doing this over a year now. Yay!
Woohoo!
So yeah, we'll talk to you Monday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.